What is the power of animation? What feelings can it evoke that live action can't? No other studio has explored the answer to these questions more than Studio Ghibli, which for decades has turned out inimitable works that have awed audiences across the globe. But what makes the studio's films so distinctively powerful? This is the world of Studio Ghibli. Before we start drawing, be sure to subscribe to Studio Binder and click the bell to check out all our new videos. Let's fly. Studio Ghibli is a Japanese animation studio. It was founded in 1985 by directors Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata, along with producer Toshio Suzuki. By the time they founded the company, the three men were seasoned animation vets, having worked in the industry since the late 60s. After the success of Miyazaki's film Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, they decided to create their own studio. Its name was chosen by Miyazaki after a World War II-era Italian airplane, which is also Libyan Arabic for hot desert wind.
基本的にまず面白い映画を作ろうっていうことが最大の目的で。
The studio has gone on to be massively successful, claiming 4 of the top 10 highest-grossing Japanese movies and earning Oscars and Golden Globes.
Spirited Away, Hayao Miyazaki.
The Boy and the Heron.
おめでとうございます。
The studio is primarily known for its Miyazaki-directed projects, but it has also been behind the works of Takahata and several other directors. Still, there are common threads that run through most of Ghibli's films, beginning with its approach to production. Miyazaki's process has become the stuff of legend.
ストーリーとしてはもうだいぶ見えてるんですか？
この映画？はい。見えてないよ。
The director begins with drawings and typically proceeds to storyboard the entire film himself. Often, this is without a finished script.
もうね、本当に何かに沿ってやってんじゃないんですよね。どういう映画にこの映画はなるのかね、それはわからないんですよ。
Miyazaki prefers to find a story as he goes, which is uncommon in any form of filmmaking, but especially in animation, where pre-planning is often paramount. Isao Takahata explains, Hayao Miyazaki stopped writing screenplays a long time ago. He doesn't even bother to first finalize the storyboards. After diving into the process, he then begins to create storyboards while doing all his other work, from key animation on down. Using his powers of continuous concentration, the production starts to take on the elements of an endlessly improvised performance. Miyazaki's approach may result in chaotic production schedules, but it also allows for organic development, which can be seen in his films.
話変わったんですね。もう絵コンテ通りじゃないんです。直子は生きてって言ってるんですよ。生きてって言ってないんですよ。
生きて。
だから長い反問の挙句セリフが今決まったんです。
Takahata's production style may not have been as improvisational, but this doesn't mean he didn't experiment. My Neighbors the Yamadas used watercolor-style digital animation, while Princess Kaguya mimicked ink-wash scroll painting. One calling card of Ghibli films is their use of stillness. Unlike many other animation films, which feel they need to meet younger audiences' short attention spans, Ghibli movies will let small moments linger. This comes from the Japanese concept of ma. For more on that, check out our video on the subject. Ghibli movies can also be characterized by their distinctive scores, the vast majority of which were composed by Joe Hisaishi. Hisaishi's music balances Western symphonic traditions with Japanese minimalism. Themes are often repeated and iterated upon for maximum emotional impact. Instead of having a leitmotif for specific characters, Hisaishi will typically build off one core melodic idea for an entire film. Miyazaki discusses his collaboration with Hisaishi. Early on, I bring in Mr. Hisaishi to discuss what kind of film I'm going to make. I give him indications of what kind of motifs I would like to have in the film. Then he makes an image out of all the music that is going to be in the film. We don't necessarily use all that music, but it is music that he imagines would be best fitting for the story. And then the story progresses and it gets further on into the production process. We discuss more specific uses of his music. But of course, one of Ghibli's most defining qualities is its visual style. Ghibli films have an almost singular beauty, and this look largely comes from the studio's commitment to hand-draw as much of their film as possible. For Miyazaki, the painstaking process encourages a keen attention to detail. He explains the process Ghibli has adhered to for most of the 21st century. We take handmade cell animation and digitize it in order to enrich the visual look, but everything starts with the human hand drawing. And the color standard is dictated by the background. We don't make up a color on the computer. Without creating those rigid standards, we'll just be caught up in the whirlpool of computerization. Today, the hand-drawn approach has become very rare, largely because it requires significantly more time and effort. Founding producer Toshio Suzuki explains, "We have 60 animators, but we are only able to come up with 1 minute of animation in a month. That means 12 months a year, you get 12 minutes worth of movie." But hand-drawing frame by frame doesn't automatically get you the signature Ghibli look. There are other touchpoints Miyazaki especially returns to movie after movie. One can find the influence of Japanese fine art in many Ghibli films. The emphasis of natural landscapes, the use of negative space, and attention to seasonal change can all be found in both Ghibli works as well as ukiyo-e prints and Yamato-e painting. Ghibli films also borrow from European styles, specifically using European architectural styles in their backgrounds. Perhaps most importantly, Ghibli animation focuses on the small details of everyday life, like the welling of a tear, the texture of food, or the slicing of a knife. This attention to detail is often most stunningly applied to the natural world. This comes from intensive research and observation. For those 10 years I walked around the landscape near me, and I looked carefully at the landscape to see what I could use. These visuals would have nowhere near the staying power they enjoy without the stories they are a part of. And like its visuals, Ghibli's narratives are unconventional. It could be argued that what separates Ghibli movies from their American counterparts is their narrative structure. Ghibli stories rarely follow a rigid 3-act formula. Instead, they often meander, letting small moments breathe and concluding without a clean message or resolution. Takahata describes his understanding of the narrative of Grave of the Fireflies.
しかし僕はこの蛍の墓っていうのはその物語ではないと思うんですよ。だって物語というのは一方方向でだんだん悪い状態になって死んでしまうっていうだけの話ですから。ですからそういう状態であるにもかかわらずその2人は一体どう生きたのかっていうその具体的なその姿、あるいはその周りの状況をその実際にですねその見る人になんていうかな追体験してもらう必要があるので。
As Takahata notes, the absence of a driving plotline allows for Ghibli films to focus on deeply felt characters and their worlds, creating a feeling of organic exploration. But just because Ghibli films wander doesn't mean they don't have structure. Many of their films utilize Kisho Tenketsu, a storytelling structure that has existed in Japan, China, Korea, and other regions for centuries. The structure has 4 parts: Kiku, or introduction, Shoku, or development, Tenku, meaning twist or change, and Keku, meaning conclusion. Kisho Tenketsu stories are often not driven by conflict, though conflict can be present. Instead, they focus on the evolution of a character. As such, many Ghibli movies lack typical villains.
私修行中の身なんです。魔法がなくなったら私何の取り柄もなくなっちゃう。
Antagonists like Lady Eboshi or Yubaba are often complex, with their own reasonable and even justifiable motives.
もののけ姫、聞こえるか？私はここにいるぞ。お前が一族の仇を討とうというなら、こちらにも山犬に食い殺された夫の無念を晴らそうと心に決めた者たちがいる。出ておいで。今夜こそケリをつけてやる。
ここで働かせてください。
バカなおしゃべりはやめとくれ。そんなひょろひょろに何ができるのさ。ここはね、人間の来るところじゃないんだ。
Many Ghibli stories take inspiration from Japanese folklore and Shinto, sometimes featuring kami or spirits borrowed from Shinto. These fantastical elements are often woven into everyday life without fanfare, creating a magical world that can feel easily identifiable with our own. Ghibli movies also have many recurring themes. Many have stories rooted in environmentalism.
すげえ。獅子神は花坂じじいだったんだ。
Movies like Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, Princess Mononoke, and My Neighbor Totoro emphasize the relationship between humans and nature. Many Ghibli movies have protagonists that are children or teenagers, and thus focus on coming-of-age arcs, where young characters undergo a time of significant change. Both Miyazaki and Takahata were children during World War II. The devastation they witnessed resulted in pacifist themes throughout much of their work. Films like Grave of the Fireflies, The Wind Rises, and The Boy and the Heron all have strong critiques of militarism.
戦、行き倒れ、病に飢え。人海は恨みを飲んで死んだ亡者でひしめとる。たたりというなら、この世はたたりそのもの。
Studio Ghibli's unique approach to production, visuals and narrative have made it one of the most beloved animation houses in the world, and one of the most influential. Its work is a testament to perfectionism and an undying devotion to craft. Takahata may be gone, and Miyazaki may be getting older, but their legacies and the legacy of their fellow Ghibli filmmakers will live on in the studio and beyond. Get started on your own legacy-defining project with Studio Binder's pre-production services, which include software for storyboards and shot listing. Until next time, don't be afraid to be a perfectionist.